Slavery never ended. I don't know what makes you think that it did. You think like Emancipation Proclamation. You think slavery. You only associate slavery with a certain group of people. Um, with black people, so-called black people. You think they were the only people that were slaves, huh? So you think the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves? That was an illusion. I mean, what is it to, an Emancipation Proclamation? It means you proclaim. What are you claiming? You're claiming to have emancipated someone, which prison is slavery. It's actually legal slavery. It's in your constitution. Um, Also, you have to realize that it's many different forms of slavery. People think slavery, they think plantation and that whole thing. Listen, that was just part of a certain period in time that has been exploited, overly exploited, and most people have been sucked into this illusion that that is slavery and that is all that slavery is, was, and consists of. This is false. um Religion is a form of slavery. Sports, entertainment is a form of slavery. um Financial slavery, just dealing with corporations. Let's think about this. Corporation. You have corpse and ration. Is this the rationing of corpse? We're dealing with a lifeless entity. Their body of work is putting bodies to work. This is how they thrive. That's why it's called a corporation. It's a lifeless entity. That's why they like to incorporate everything, sucking the life out of it or the soul from it. This is something that needs to be known. um, Financial slavery, credit card, just a form of financial slavery. Debt is financial slavery. Taxes, paying utility bills. Why do you have to pay for nature, water, electricity, gas? Slavery. Um, Sports. Now I say sports entertainment is slavery. I'm not saying it's something. There's not nothing wrong with you know doing this for fun. With your friends. Playing ball, football or basketball, baseball, whatever sport you like. There's nothing wrong with that. With actually playing or partaking in a sport. But when it comes to when you're doing it for money, see, then it becomes a form of slavery. When it's a profit involved. College sports is slavery. They make money off the college athletes. These big colleges make a lot of money off these winning teams. That's why you see colleges that, years ago, their schools may have been predominantly one type of people, and then they started integrating other types of people, and because these other types of people drew more of a crowd because of their talents and their artistic capabilities on the basketball court or on the football field. See, they seen the profit behind it. See, this is the whole point of Jackie Robinson being accepted into what they call the major leagues. Do you know how many so-called Negro League teams they had at that point in time? How many teams that so-called black people had formed on their own, and how lucrative, how much of a profit they were making? So it was a way to stagnate or to dead that profit. They wanted to integrate those athletes, those star athletes, into their league, which ultimately put an end to your league or to the so-called Negro League. Um, when they pick these athletes, to be a certain size, certain width, certain weight, a certain height, good health, good eyes, good hand and eye coordination. I mean, it's almost like when they were picking slaves at an auction, but they call it a draft. And I mean, that's equivalent to, the house slave or the field slave. Yeah, of course, you may make millions or get paid millions, but you're making someone billions and trillions offer you a million. So that would be the equivalent now as to back when let's say you may have your own area where you may live. You may not have to live in a barn or outside somewhere in a crawl space, but you might actually have your own home, or you get to live good and eat good like the slave master. So you're buying into this illusion of grandeur, and you buying into this illusion of inclusion, and you think you are one with a machine that's actually designed to destroy you, or the machine that's oppressing you. It's like what they call Stockholm syndrome. Um, I mean, you probably even check these guys' teeth, their bones, different things like that. And a lot of people don't know these athletes actually undergo a lot of psychiatric counseling just to handle the pressures of playing professional sports and dealing with that type of atmosphere and everything that comes with it. Um, and fans, to be a fan is to be a fanatic. People are so fanatic about sports. Some people are having heart attacks and strokes, and their blood pressure is skyrocketing because they're getting so much adrenaline, due to these games. And adrenaline, too much adrenaline can be bad for your immune system. Your body starts to fight. It thinks there's something going on. It gets alert. Goes on alarm. You know, um, so you don't want to unnecessarily use or burn off your adrenaline, especially on something of that nature. And yeah, like I said though, it's all about profit. It's like the gladiators. Yeah, they were slaves. Yeah, they didn't serve drinks, and they weren't the servant type of slaves. They got to have women, and they got to eat good and live better than the other servants because of their talent. They went and they fought to the death. They had a skill, gladiators, like, a boxer or UFC fighter. And this was how they earned a living. This is how they earned to stay in the position that creates the illusion that you're not in oppression anymore, or that you're free or freer, which that's silly. So you're either free or you're not. Um, the religious, see, the religion, that's binding you or bringing you back to bondage or causing you to rely on something other than yourself, something outside yourself. And this also stems from slavery. You have to understand who the Lord was or who the master was when they were reading these scriptures to these slaves. See, the Lord or the master was referring to the slave master, and the slave or the servant or the one that was supposed to be obedient to God or his master or his Lord was a slave. The person that had to sit and hear these scriptures. And they were instilled in these people with fear, using fear tactics. Heaven and hell, and burning in hell for eternity, and your skin burning off, and reforming and burning back off again, and all of these torture tales about hell, um, and judgment, and so forth and so on. You have people so scared, they're scared to live and they're scared to die. You know, you got people paying for life insurance. They work their whole life, they pay life insurance because in case something might happen to them. And then they go to church and they're paying tithes, they're paying afterlife insurance because they're scared of what's going to happen to them after life. You're supposed to fear all your life and then die in fear? It's too much fear. But see, this is a form of slavery. This is something that keeps you submissive. Like I said before, a man could tell you anything and you might not listen. But if a man tells you God said, or a higher power said, and then if they already instilled the power or the fear of God or this higher power in you, Of course you're going to submit with ease. You see, they knew this method worked so well because this method was used on them before. And they in turn used it on us. See, everybody's been lied to. Everyone's been miseducated. Everyone has misperceptions and false inceptions and ideologies of the true nature of the problem and the solution. Um, these things, people must begin to see through these things and realize, what they really are. For example, they created an education system. But see, education by definition or etymology, education is a systematic training or skills for work. What system? Whose system? Work for who? Working for what? You get a job, a corporate job, you call your boss Mr. You go to school, you take subjects, you call your teacher Mr. or Miss, which is just the feminine. But Mr. means master. How many masters are you subject to? You spend your whole life under mastery, and you expect to be equal to the masters one day. So people go to school and their goal is to get their master's degree. And this is supposed to put you on the level of the masters. Once again, this is an illusion. A lot of people probably, oh, you saying don't go to school, don't do, listen. If you're going to send your children to school, don't let that be the only education that they get. You have to educate your children at home as well. Educate them to the system and give them the proper skills so they'll know how to manipulate the system, or should I say, master the system truly, or truly master the system without falling victim to the system. See, the worst slave is the slave that doesn't know he's a slave. That slave never has any plans on being free. No concept of what being free is. Hell, they think they're already free. But the slave that knows they're a slave, see, they're the ones that are secretly working on a way to not be a slave. See, the same system that's used to oppress you, you have to figure it out. And once you figure it out, you can use the workings of that system to actually free you. You see, once you understand the science or the knowledge, science and knowing, you know the knowledge on something, you can use it in your favor, in your benefit. It's like, when you go to court, people think they're there to be judged, and this is their judge, jury, and sometimes execution. But when you're in court, and let's say you have a lawyer, or no, let's say you use a legal defense, or you're presenting yourself, you're going to use the rules and regulations, the laws, the statutes of their court, of their system, to win your case, or to present your case or argument. This is what I'm saying. See, if you educate yourself to this system, then you can liberate yourself from this system. And the same thing with working. I'm not saying, it's don't work, don't get a job, be a slouch, da 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 da, because you have to do some form of working. What work has become isn't natural because of what it does to people, the stress, how it keeps them away from their children, and which causes mental or psychological problems amongst the children because You know, they're in school from morning to evening and their parents are working, and by the time they get home from school or daycare and their parents are home and they eat dinner, if they eat dinner at home, it's time to go to bed. So they're not really getting any quality time. And the TLC is important. And what happens is they'll act out due to the lack of this, or they'll seek out someone else to give them this. And you have to comprehend that you are your child's first guidance counselor. Guide and counsel your child. See, laziness kills. If you don't know something, educate yourself on it. You know, and it's important to educate yourself on things because let's say you dropped out of school. Now, when your child gets to the grade or to the level where their work is starting to get complicated and you don't know how to do it, what are you going to do? Tell them, I don't know, go ask your teacher? Or are you going to see this ahead of time and study or learn yourself to new things and obtain the knowledge to be able to assist your children? Because a child learns best from their parent. That is the best teacher of a child. Um, that's very important. So a lot of people need to take the accountability. You know, of course, yeah, you pay taxes, teachers need to do their job, so forth and so on. Yeah, okay. But the parent is the first teacher, and they need to do their job. You know, because when you send your children out to your enemy, or not your enemy, but when you send your children out to the system, which the system is your enemy, and the system is educating your child, and you're not giving your child any education, what happens is your child comes home as the enemy. See, now you're living with an agent under your roof. You're living with the enemy. You're sleeping with the enemy. You know, don't give birth to your own destruction. The whole thing of birth should be resurrecting. The birth should be the resurrection, not the destruction of the next generation. That's very important. You know, people need to really wake up, you know, wise up, rise up, and be greater, you know, because that's very important. So what, you know how to dress nice, or you know, you drive a nice car, which, like I said, all of these things, you know, are foolish because nice means foolish. But you know, you have all of these materialistic items that are for show, or makes it look good, or gives the image or the appearance that you're doing well. But if you're not well mentally, then you're not doing well. You know, if you're putting more effort into your appearance than you are in your parenting, there's a problem. If you're partying, if you party better than you parent, there's a problem. If you know more about reality shows and cell phones and television and gossip and nonsense than you know about parenting, there's a problem. And if you're raising your children to follow in your footsteps and you know that you've walked down the wrong path and the wrong road and you're still walking that path, there's a problem. You're the solution. You need to check yourself and correct yourself. Stop putting your own selfish ambitions before the needs of your child. This is something that needs to stop. But see, this is all a form of slavery. See, slavery first starts with the mind. It appears to be more so physical because people have been trained to look at the outside and not the inside. But it's actually more so psychological. And people are birthing this psychological fear or this slave mentality down from generation to generation. And the vaccines, the cesareans, and the different injections, the shots you get to see the sex of your baby, these different things are all used to calcify the mother and the child's pineal gland. So they want you to give birth to a deficient child. This is something that people need to be aware of. See, we have to free ourselves of all the chains that comes along with psychological bondage and mental slavery. You know, maybe people should go back to a barter system. you know, actually earning their worth. That would eliminate all of these debts and all of these different other forms of financial slavery. You know, and I don't care what people did a long time ago, because whoever invented that method was doomed from the very beginning, and it was a violation of the natural way of life, or the way that things should go naturally. So that's something a lot of you need to wrap your minds around. No one is born with a religion. No one is born believing in anything. This is learned. This is something that is taught. Stop teaching your children to believe in make believe. It's 2014, and you people still believe in make believe. It's like the fairy tales are for children, then you grow up and the Bible tells are for grown ups. You're a kid, it's the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, and you grow up as Jesus and Moses and all these different individuals. Grown up fairy tales. All to keep you looking outside yourself. Something all to have you self-centered and only focused on yourself, because you're focused on, you know, your life or what you're going to get for a holiday, which is nothing holy about any of these holidays that you're celebrating, and they have nothing to do with the sun. See, this is also a violation of nature, an illusion, a perception that's been created to manipulate and control the minds of the people. See, this all falls in to mental slavery. And if you don't want Santa Claus for Christmas, they say it's Jesus' birthday. You don't want the Easter Bunny on Easter, they say it's the day Jesus resurrected. So they're going to get you to spend money regardless. They're going to get you to be a slave to these different concepts regardless, whether it's the child version or the adult version. They still have a method to have you hooked in. So you definitely have to free your mind. Be open-minded. And then free your mind. Once your mind is open, it can be set free. You know, so definitely be aware of the reality of what's going on around you, and let's stop creating generations of slaves. Let's reclaim our freedom. Let's liberate ourselves, I should say. Let's be free. You know, and what I mean by that is you can free yourself from the system. Like I said, all you have to do is starve it. Stop feeding into the system. Go on strike against the system. Refuse to feed into the system and it will die. But see, this requires discipline. Mass discipline. So it can be a reality, but change starts with the person in the mirror. So we all have to start with ourselves.